I'm thinking about Thanksgiving today, and I want to share with y'all a recipe for our oyster dressing. Down south, especially here in Savannah, people love oyster dressing, and it is so good. But the thought of eating an oyster to some people turns them off. So you always want to have two kinds of dressing, your southern cornbread and then your oyster dressing. I'm going to make my cornbread the same identical way that I make it for my southern cornbread dressing. So I've got, what do I have here? I've got
1.5 cups of southern
This is 1 cup. This is 1 cup of self-rising cornmeal mix. That word mix is very important. In fact, I will take the bag out right now and show you. What to look for. Okay, here we go. This is a buttermilk cornmeal mix. And it has other ingredients in it. Not just meal. So this really, really helps make your cornbread, to me, extra special. Now I've got 1/2 cup of self-rising flour. Now if I did not have self-rising flour, I would use plain flour and add a teaspoon of baking powder to it, or baking soda. So we are gonna just mix our dry ingredients together. And because this is self-rising, we don't need to add any salt or soda or powder. We don't need to add anything to it. So I've got 2 eggs here. I've got, maybe 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And yes, I look down here and it is 2 tablespoons. And then I've got 3/4 cup of buttermilk. Look, that buttermilk looks like heavy cream, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So pretty and so thick. All right, so it's that easy. Now, here is a tip that I really like doing when I'm making my cornbread. I like to get my pan real hot. So when you put your cornbread into your cast iron skillet, it'll sizzle and give you that wonderful crust on the bottom of that cornbread. Now, I haven't even turned our oven on yet, and this is what I'll do sometimes if I have forgotten to throw this in the oven. I'll put it on one of my burners, and I'll just let it get hot. And that way, it will crisp up the bottom of my cornbread. So this is the first step, and you can make this, a few days ahead of time, and just throw your cornbread in the refrigerator until you're ready to make it for Thanksgiving. But I will say this about cornbread dressing. You have to be so very careful how you put it together, because if you add hot to cold and put it in your refrigerator in a container where it's real thick, if you do it too far ahead of time, I'm talking about sometimes just a day, it will sour. I have thrown away more bins of dressing because we'd have it in big bus tubs. So this pan is getting warm. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pour it in. I hear a little bit of a sizzle, but not much. There's nothing like getting that pan in the oven and getting it so hot. yesterday, Claudia sent me a text and she said, Guinea, Millie is asking for you to come over and play with her today. And she said, could really use your help. So I said, okay, I'll come. Well, I walked in the door and Millie said, okay, Guinea, today I want to be the mommy and you be the baby. Honey, she bossed me all over that playroom.
She gets it honestly.
I'm telling you what. Okay, I'm probably going to put that on about 25 minutes to start with. Or no, I think I'll do it on like 23 minutes to start with and we'll check it. I'll keep my eye on it. All right, our cornbread that we put in the oven earlier, it has turned out, it's cooled off, and it just made a beautiful batch of cornbread. And we've got 7 slices of white toast. And when I say toast, every time I hear that oven, it's going off. And when I say toast, we just put it in the oven and let it dry out so you can hear it. You just want to be able to do this to it. You want to be able to crumble it up. And that's hard to do if it's good and soft right out of the package. So you just want to dry it out like it feels like stale bread, you know? Something you wouldn't eat a sandwich on. So we're going to crumble all those up. We're going to put our cornbread in our bucket. This is the old bucket that I use every time I make my dressing, y'all. Because it holds the most. All right, now I'm just going to test this cornbread. I'm going to lay it in a little bit of that butter. Delicious cornbread. When you're making dressing, your cornbread is so very important. You never want to use these cornbread mixes that are full of sugar that taste like cake. And I know some people really like sweet cornbread, but you never, ever want to use sweet cornbread for your dressing, for your southern dressing. It will mess it up terrible bad. So, I have put a stick of butter in my pan. I've got 2 cups of celery. And about a cup of onions. And you can put as many of this stuff as you want into your stuffing. And I don't let mine cook for very long because remember, we're going to have 45 minutes to an hour in the oven. And I do want it to still have a little bit of a crunch. And my grandmother, Paula, taught me so many years ago how to make good southern cornbread dressing. And it just thrills me when I run into people and say, I'll make your grandmother Paula's cornbread dressing. It just thrills me to pieces to hear that my grandmother's cooking is living on. All right, so while I'm letting that saute a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and crumble everything up. And it doesn't have to be real fine because when we put our liquid in, it's gonna get like soppy. All right, so to me, that is done enough to suit my tongue. So I'm gonna pour all that in. So it's still gonna have a nice little crunch to it. And my Granny Paul told me to always use a sleeve. All right, now here in my little dishes, I have a poultry seasoning, which gives that a nice kick. So I'm gonna put that in. I've got some salt. I've got some coarse ground black pepper. Now, this ingredient, I know my Aunt Peggy does not like sage. I can't remember if my grandmother used it or not. I really can't. If she had used it, though, she'd have used a very light hand with it. So this is just a teaspoon of sage. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And this recipe calls for maybe 6 cups of chicken stock. But what is going to make this oyster dressing, what's going to make it so good, is we're going to use the oyster liquor. So I'm going to be cutting back on this. I'm going to be cutting back on the liquid in here. Since I didn't have any chicken to boil, we made our own base out of the wet bases that you can buy now. And I was watching TV the other day and an ad came up for all kind of wet bases now, like oh my gosh, for like Mexican dishes and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so they make a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that oyster liquor so I can determine how much chicken base I need to put in it. And you'll want your dressing to be like maybe the consistency of maybe like a pancake batter, because that moisture will cook out. Okay. Now I'm going to put my eggs in last because I'm going to want to taste this to check the seasonings, but I don't taste it once I put raw eggs in it, because in prior videos you've heard me talk about eggs, and I just don't like the idea of eating a raw egg. Ooh, that's good. That's good. The oyster liquor is really good. So how many cups did you have in here, Teresa?
7. You just put
7.
2.
Mm-hmm. So we're down to 4 cups. So I'm taking 3 out of here and about a cup out of there. So far it's like 5 cups. Now Grandma Paul taught me to scoop out 1 scoop of raw dressing and put that aside to drop down into my gravy. You know, our turkey gravy that we make, I always stir that in with a boiled egg, a sliced boiled egg. And that's our, all of a sudden, can't remember the name of the gravy.
Giblet.
Yeah, giblet gravy. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add the oysters. Those are big,
Fat
big
ones.
oysters. And you know, one more time, I think I'm gonna pull out my handy dandy scissors and I'm gonna do a little cutting so everybody will get, you know, a piece of an oyster. Now normally our oysters are not that big, y'all, so I wouldn't do this. But since these were about the size of Teresa's head, I'm gonna cut them up a little bit.
It's crazy.
I mean, those are large oysters. So I've beaten our eggs. But anyway, this is so important. What I'm fixing to talk about is the fact that this can sour so very quickly. like if I had this boiling hot, the base, my chicken stock, and I added it to cold cornbread, that will cause it to sour, adding hot to cold, because it will take a while when you put it in the refrigerator to all cool down, and that's the period that it sours in. So everything is cold that I'm getting together right now. And so now I'm gonna add the eggs. Now, if I was making this ahead of time, y'all, and this is really important too, if I was making this the day before, I would make sure everything that I put together was cold. And I would not put my eggs in until right before I went to cook it, because I just have a feeling that could affect it as well. So there goes our eggs. And I made my cornbread in my smallest cast iron skillet. So, you know, this is what I would make for a family of 4 to 6 people, maybe. About that size. So I'm gonna add some more stock. So I'm down to 3 cups. I've used 4. I've used 5 cups of stock for this cornbread. And that looks...
Did that include the other 2 cups that you...
Yes. We started out with 7 cups in here.
Yeah.
And then I got another cup from with some more base in it. I'm not gonna need all this because we had so much liquor in the oysters. So where I would have told you to use 7 cups, probably 5 cups would do perfect. 4 to 5, yeah, 4 to 5 cups. And I'm gonna put one more little drop. And that's it. I'm happy with this consistency. And I hope, Eddie, that you can get it.
Yeah, it shows pretty good.
I mean, it's like a pancake batter. And if you put this in the refrigerator, if you're cooking it the day before and you put it in the refrigerator, put it in a pan, something like this, so it will cool quickly, not in something real thick. So it may take 2 of these pans for your dressing. So that is it.
And it's going in the
It's going in the oven, isn't it?
Do you want this pan?
Huh?
What you gonna cook
No,
it in?
I think I'm gonna put it in this pan that Eddie got out, because
For all that, Eddie was right.
yeah, Eddie's right quite often. I'm gonna wipe this down for you. All right, now I'm gonna spray this because it will stick. All right, so you'll know this is done when you shake it and the center just shakes just a little bit. You know, if you shake it and it still appears to be very wet in the center, leave it a little bit longer. And if you feel like it might be getting too brown on top, then just cover it with tin foil. But make sure that center is set.
Perfect.
Look at that, y'all. It is Thanksgiving. Ooh, I love Thanksgiving. Don't have to worry about hunting down presents. You just show your love to your family through the food that you cook for them. And you know what? I'm not going to be cooking Thanksgiving this Thanksgiving either, because we're all going to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and we're going to stay on the island and we are having our Thanksgiving meal at Paula Deen's Family Kitchen. Hip, hip, hooray! So in a roundabout way, I'm cooking their meal. With a lot of help from my friends. Yum. That's all I got to say. This is some of the prettiest dressing I think that's ever come out of my oven. All right, now I hate to mess it up by digging into it, but I am. Now my family, we have always liked our dressing moist. And you know, some people it's like, looks like croutons. You know, it'll be hard, but not ours. You can see the moisture in it. I mean, it's just perfect. And I smell the oysters. So good, y'all.
Can you make us a turkey?
Would y'all like some? I got some sliced turkey from the deli. And I'm glad I took my scissors and cut those oysters up into more bite-sized pieces. Y'all must try our dressing recipe. If you don't like the oysters, don't put them in. Increase your chicken stock a little bit more, but I think you will really like it. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey y'all, it's Paula Deen. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be alerted when I post a video. Love and best dishes, y'all.